There are more than 600 million motor vehicles on the roads today. That's likely to double in the next 30 years. But our love affair with the automobile comes at a price. Cars are the world's single biggest source of atmospheric pollution. They produce 14% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions. They contribute to global warming. They consume 1/3 of the world's oil. And oil is a limited resource. Recent shortages and price fluctuations have caused hardship and triggered widespread anger. Can we afford to keep driving? Is it time for a change? With crisis comes opportunity. Now more than ever, automakers are ramping up efforts to produce that perfect car. Emissions-free, eco-friendly, consumer-centered. It's going to be nothing short of a revolution. Over the next hour, we'll take you across Japan and travel to California to talk to key industry leaders and find out how new technologies might transform the way we drive. I'm Kaori and Enjoji. You're watching Wheels of Change.
Konnichiwa, Kite, Beverly Hills, Rodale Drive.
Our journey begins in California, home to Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and the world's largest concentration of hybrid vehicles. They're everywhere. And they're not just for trendsetters or environmentalists. For some, they've become your everyday family car.
All right, let's go in the car.
Let's go get in the car. Where's George?
George, there's George.
Oh, there he is.
For the Zuckermans, a weekend at the beach means a ride in their Toyota Highlander hybrid.
It's okay.
The Toyota Prius is their city car.
Okay. We're going to the beach. So I test drove the Highlander, and then my husband said, well, what about the hybrid? And I test drove that, and I thought, it drives great. It's big enough, if it helps the environment, and so we got it.
It's the kind of success that has competitors literally green with envy. The Prius has been described as an automotive landmark, a trailblazer. It wasn't the first hybrid vehicle to hit the U.S. mass market. Honda beat Toyota to that honor, but the Prius did what others failed to do. It brought the idea of an environmentally friendly car into the mainstream.
This was a car that was originally conceived back in 1993, long before everyone worried about fuel prices and things like that. So it's had all that sort of lead time in terms of development and sort of product maturity. And then it was just simply a matter of timing, I think. It's also helped that it seems to have won a lot of friends in high places. You've got high-profile people like Al Gore, a lot of Hollywood celebrities driving a Prius and wanting to do it to make a statement.
It's been 10 years since the Prius first hit the streets, and Toyota has sold more than 1 million of them around the world, most of them here in California. This is Toyota's largest dealership in the world, and the Prius has been so popular this year, they're running out of cars. That's a rare miscalculation from a company that invented just-in-time management. Here at the Longo Toyota dealership in Los Angeles, demand for the Prius is so strong, there's a 6-month waiting list. Recent ups and downs in oil prices have only added to the car's appeal.
When fuel prices started to take off, our day supply today, we actually measure in hours. We have about a 40-hour supply of Prius today. Overall demand for Prius when you measure intentions of consumers to buy, it has shot up from about 2% of industry to almost 4%. So the demand for the car is in excess of 500,000 vehicles. And unfortunately, the production volume, our allocation of that's probably closer to 175,000.
It's a level of excitement Toyota never anticipated when it launched the current Prius in 2004. But at least one industry observer says, even then, he knew it was going to be a hit.
When I first saw the vehicle, this generation of it, at the New York Auto Show, I described it as what I thought was the best car of the show from a design standpoint. And it's versatile, it's aerodynamic, but it's versatile. And we don't like to use the word hatchback here in the United States, but that vehicle is, and that just means you can put things in it, like a bicycle or other larger items that you couldn't put in a sedan or a coupe. And I find that to be part of the allure of that particular vehicle.
Toyota is working hard to make up for the current shortfall, teaming up with Panasonic to make more batteries, and ramping up production in a big way. Toyota has sold some 800,000 Priuses in the U.S., all of them exported from Japan. But that's about to change. Toyota is building a new factory in Mississippi, and so by the year 2010, the Prius will be made in the United States. All the success has led Toyota to speed up development of their eco-friendly line. A plug-in version of the Prius hybrid will be available at the end of next year, along with the third-generation Prius.
So very simple to refill.
This just goes this
Just
way.
go straight in. Yep, that's it.
Plug-ins are one step up the hybrid evolutionary ladder because it allows drivers to charge up their cars via a regular power outlet. The conventional Prius has only one battery, but the plug-in hybrid has two. That means the plug-in has electric power to start the car and run until 62 miles an hour before it taps the gasoline engine, more than double the miles of the conventional Prius.
Now, get in the car.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we are on, and we are on EV.
A flick of the EV switch, and the Prius runs purely on battery. What do you see as some of the drawbacks?
Well, I think one of the biggest drawbacks is understanding where the production of electricity is coming from. Because this is not successful if it doesn't help to reduce the amount of carbon. So that really has to be studied and understood.
And that's the rub. The Prius plug-in will have to draw its energy from a clean source in order to be truly environmentally friendly. The current range is also somewhat limited. It can travel just 7 miles on pure EV mode.
So you can hear the engines now come on, and you can see the more traditional flow of energy that is engine as well as battery.
So it's a step forward, but there's still a long way to go. Hybrids are, after all, still an intermediate technology.
But I think there are other ways that you can reduce emissions beyond just plug-in. I think the advanced technology that we're putting into internal combustion gas works. I think the ability to use natural gas can work. You look at compressed propane just in Japan alone with all the taxis, and that has had a real positive impact on the environment.
By early 2010, Toyota plans to mass produce pure electric cars. Toyota has plenty of cash and can afford to explore different technologies, but it can't rest on its laurels. Some of its closest rivals are offering green cars that are much cheaper. If they catch on, the next lap may turn into a dead heat. They're working hard to play catch-up. After the break, Honda ups the stakes with its latest offering. Environmentalists are psyched, but are ordinary customers ready to give it a spin? The moment is carefully calibrated. The rollout, picture perfect. The star of the show, the car next to the smiling man, the FCX Clarity, arguably Honda Motors' most significant gamble to date. It might look like a regular workhorse, but the FCX Clarity is a breakthrough. This is the world's first hydrogen-powered fuel cell vehicle that's headed for mass production. And for Honda chairman Takeo Fukui, a significant coup. How important do you think the fuel cell will be in the future?
With global warming and the need to solve the carbon dioxide problem, I am convinced that we need to continue research in this type of hydrogen fuel cell. I am convinced that without it, I think the auto industry has no future.
Do you consider this to be a trial version? And how different do you think this will be from the final version?
This is very close to mass production, but the first thing is cost. We need to cut that by a few tenths. The other thing is hydrogen, to produce that without carbon dioxide and to build the infrastructure. Those are the two things.
This is the heart of the FCX Clarity, a fuel cell unit that uses hydrogen and oxygen to generate electricity. The byproducts, heat and water. No carbon dioxide. No pollutants. It's a motoring milestone, 16 years in the making, an achievement that's closely watched by industry experts.
I am privileged to begin by introducing the world's first Clarity customer.
For Honda and Fukui, a proud moment. But these are keys for a privileged few. Not everyone who wants a Clarity is going to get one. Fuel cells are prohibitively expensive to produce. Each car costs several $100,000 to make. Honda is effectively subsidizing its first converts, leasing them the Clarity for just $600 a month.
We got queries from 50,000 people when we first showed it at the LA Auto Show. But we can't produce that many. US customers will be our main customers, but together with Japan, we hope to produce several tens each year for a total of about 200 in 3 years.
Honda says it's ready to mass produce the Clarity, and it has the facilities to prove it. A state-of-the-art assembly line that's likely to remain underutilized for some time. The big hope is that economies of scales will help lower production costs. But even Fukui admits generating demand will take some effort. Consumers are a pragmatic lot, and hydrogen refueling stations are a rarity. Who wants to drive a car that's a pain to refuel? The FCX Clarity that was recently kicked off still has a lot of problems or hurdles in terms of the infrastructure. When do you think we can overcome some of these infrastructure issues?
As soon as we can come up with the ability to provide hydrogen without emitting CO2, and once cars like the FCX Clarity can be commercialized, the infrastructure will follow quickly.
So car before the gasoline station.
Gasoline stations didn't come before the automobile. The cars came first, then they spread, and gasoline stations were built.
If Fukui sounds determined, he is. He's known in the industry as a man who just hates to lose. In the high-stakes race to win over green consumers, Honda has much to prove. The company is still smarting over an early setback. Honda beat Toyota to the mass market when it launched the Insight Hybrid in the United States in 1999. But whereas Toyota's Prius became a driving phenomenon, the Insight failed, and Honda stopped making it in 2006.
Well, talking about the first generation Insight, it was a great car in terms of the fuel economy that it got, but it wasn't very mainstream in terms of what it could do as a car. In many ways, it was a dinky little car. It was tiny. It only had 2 seats. It didn't have much luggage space, so it was very much, it felt very much like an engineering novelty.
Fukui isn't giving up. A reinvented Insight was unveiled at the Paris Motor Show in 2008, the first time in 5 years that anyone introduced a hybrid-specific car. Fukui has always said he's not going to sell a car unless he can turn a profit. So he needed his hybrid to be cheaper. And at $19,000 US, the new Insight is several $1,000s cheaper than the Prius. It's all part of a wider strategy to win market share. The clarity might have earned Honda plenty of kudos, but fuel cell technology is still too expensive for the masses. Fukui knows he has to diversify.
We need different technologies. Honda thinks there's a potential in battery electric vehicles, or a motorcycle-type vehicle that runs on alcohol may end up to be the survivor. Or natural gas cars might survive. Different technologies will coexist for a long time.
When we return, the case for pure electric vehicles. Nissan CEO does an about-turn and bets big on green technology. But a smaller, less profitable rival could steal some of its thunder. That's all coming up on Wheels of Change. Meet Minoru Shinohara. He's a 31-year veteran at Nissan Motor, and he's a man on a mission. Shinohara's office is the heart of Nissan's Green Car Initiative. They work quietly here, but beneath the calm, there is a tremendous sense of urgency. The engineers here at Nissan's Advanced Technology Center are under a lot of pressure to produce an electric car. It's going to hit the markets in the US and Japan in 2010 and globally 2 years after that. The hardest part of the mission is to make the electric car mass marketable. They've got 1,500 engineers working on that mission, and they say that's not enough. They're looking for engineers not only here in Japan, but in China, India, and Vietnam to work on that dream.
We are focusing on EV, zero-emission vehicle, because of the global warming issue is very urgent. So we need to pull ahead EV. But it doesn't mean that we will give up all the other technologies.
The move represents a shift in Nissan's strategy. CEO Carlos Ghosn's disdain for hybrid vehicles is well known. I can remember a time when you weren't that big on electric cars or hybrid cars for that matter. What changed your mind?
Well, there is a big difference between hybrid and electrics. Hybrid is an evolution, while electric is a real breakthrough. We have made a lot of progress in terms of batteries, which means something is possible today that was not possible 10 years ago.
You're working on the battery with NEC, of course, but other companies are working on lithium-ion battery as well. What do you have that they don't?
The only fact I can measure is we're the only one who were committed to mass market the product. So we're not only, hoping some kind of prototype, we are just committing and signing contract and engaging ourselves into this technology. And so far we're the only one.
Ghosn's master plan is an ambitious one. He's forged an alliance with Silicon Valley startup Project Better Place, which will construct and operate an electric recharge grid in cities that sign up to their program. Two early supporters of the scheme, Israel and Denmark.
We signed the contract with Israel after we had a commitment from the different parties involved that will have enough stations to charge the car, to eventually exchange the battery.
What are some of the concerns that you're hearing from the government side?
They want the availability as soon as possible.
How do you strike the balance between coming up with something quickly and to the market and also making it viable for the bottom line?
We think the potential for electric car to be very profitable for car manufacturers is there. It's very big. I think even if the present situation of pressure on CO2 continue or is intensified and volatility around oil is still there, we may be in a situation where we're going to be all struggling to ramp up the production. So I'm expecting this not to be at all a problem in terms of profitability.
This isn't Nissan's first foray into electric vehicles. In 1999, the company introduced the world to this little runaround, the Hyper Mini. It had a range of about 100 kilometers and was targeted at those looking to travel short distances. The Hyper Mini didn't really take off, and Nissan halted production in 2006. The company is clearly hoping things will be a little different with its new EV. This is the first Nissan electric car prototype that they're letting us test drive. The exterior of the car, it's basically just a cube slapped on the outside. It's evident this is an early prototype. At 300 kilos, the current battery is so big, the back seat of the car is 10 centimeters higher than the front. We're told the car will have a range of 160 kilometers on a full charge. The battery indicator, though, seems to tell us otherwise. And then, of course, there's the question of styling.
We want to bring electric car with a special design, very specific, which means that when it's really on the street, you know it's an electric car. And we were making no compromise on the driving performance, on the comfort. So it's going to be a very attractive design, and it's going to be a car which is going to be very pleasant to drive in terms of torque, in terms of driving performance. It's going to be very fun.
Grand ambitions, but the devil's in the details. For Nissan's researchers, the focus now is on getting the battery just right. Size is everything.
We need to improve a lot. The size is very big, still very big, under the floor, very big, and the weight is very heavy and very expensive still.
So the pressure's on and the stakes are high. Nissan has some catching up to do. One of Japan's smallest and least profitable car makers is about to pull off an industry first, producing an electric car for the masses. It's called an iMEV, an electric car developed by Mitsubishi Motor. While most of the competition is still talking prototypes, Mitsubishi's EV will be on the roads in 2009, a full year ahead of General Motors and Nissan.
Europeans have great interest in the environment, and we're getting a lot of interest from there. And in the US, the situation is changing too, and we're talking about road testing to start before the year is out.
Masuko loves a good challenge. When he became Mitsubishi Motors president in 2005, the company was mired in scandal and struggling to overcome heavy losses. He moved swiftly, launching a recovery plan to turn things around. And unlike profitable giants like Toyota and Honda, Masuko had to pick his battles. He chose to bet on the future. Work on the iMEV started in October that same year.
When we try to come up with an answer or find direction for environmental issues, our work in electric cars over the last 40 years has become symbolic. It is now at the level where we can introduce it to the world, which means it will play a big role in our plans. We will start selling the car next year. Once the cars are on the roads, it will spur more ideas and creativity.
If all goes according to plan, recharging sites like this one will be a common sight in Tokyo. Tokyo Electric Power hopes to set up 200 stations by 2009 and 1,000 within the next 3 years. A 5-minute charge will allow an IMEV to travel 40 kilometers. 10 minutes, and it can cover 50 kilometers. A full charge will give it a range of 160 kilometers. Not a lot, but Moscow thinks it's enough to convince drivers to make the switch.
When you look at the way people in Japan drive their compact cars, they average about 30 kilometers a day. In big cities, people don't drive for long distances. In congested areas, residents are concerned about emissions and CO2. Drive an electric car and there is zero CO2.
When can the electric car be profitable for the company?
In the beginning, it will be very difficult for electric cars to be profitable. We want to push it into the black as soon as possible, but we will have to sit tight for several years.
TEPCO hopes to finish testing the car in March 2009. Drivers in Japan will be the first in the world to be able to buy a mass-produced electric vehicle. The choice next year? 1. The IMEV. It moves with barely a whisper and is just the kind of quiet comeback Mitsubishi Motors has been plotting. The logic's simple. Make a better battery and you're on your way to making a better electric car. The battery business is bringing out the best in Japanese engineering. Get to know the key players when Wheels of Change returns. Welcome back. I'm here in Kyoto. It's the old capital of Japan, a city steeped in rich traditions and ancient history. But the city is also looking towards the future, and there are several smaller but thriving electronics companies based here. It's also the heart of what one man hopes will be the driving force in the global push for greener cars. It's just a short drive away from central Kyoto. But what a difference! This is well off the beaten track, and visitors to Kyoto rarely venture all the way out here. But inside this building, some of the most advanced and exciting car technologies are being made. It's not a name you'd immediately associate with the auto industry, but GS Yuasa is a winner in Japan's green car revolution. The company's hottest commodity right now, lithium-ion batteries, widely regarded as the way forward for next-generation electric cars. They're smaller, lighter, and more powerful than the nickel metal hydride batteries powering most EVs today, and they're headed into the IMEV in 2009. Right now, half the cost of an EV is for the battery, but Yuasa is betting the demand will only grow and that the price will come down. GS Yuasa has been making batteries here in Kyoto for decades, and they're gearing up for mass production of batteries for pure electric cars next year. The president tells me that he's already doubled initial output plans, and he's looking for a new site so he can meet the global demand from automakers. Could you first tell me how the company first got involved with Mitsubishi Motors and their electric car project?
Our relation with Mitsubishi Motor has started when we came to know that the Mitsubishi is looking for high performance and highly reliable lithium-ion battery to be used for their electric vehicles. And then our interest comes together, and we have decided to develop the battery for Mitsubishi electric vehicle, and that's what the beginning.
Yuasa plans to manufacture some 200,000 cells in its first year of production and double that the next.
When we started the feasibility study of this joint venture company, we planned to start with their 1,000 units of the car. But before we started actual manufacturing, we were obliged to review such manufacturing program, because we have received a lot of inquiries and interest from their possible customers, and that's why we have doubled our production program compared with the original one.
In a way, Yuasa is going back to its roots. At the turn of the century, the founder, Shichizaemon Yuasa, was a man ahead of his time. He imported Japan's first electric car. Heads would turn when he drove it to work every day. And looking back, the early 1900s was the first of many EV booms to come. Shichizaemon Yuasa's car now sits near the entrance of the company's headquarters, a reminder of his love for innovation.
We are thinking to drive this car and Mitsubishi electric car together for the demonstration or promotion.
Look under the Detroit's hood and what do you find? Batteries produced by, you guessed it, GS Yuasa. Despite all the progress, safety concerns still dog the industry. Lithium-ion is highly reactive to water, and overheating is a constant risk. Still, by the year 2015, some 4 million hybrid cars are likely to hit the market. That prospect alone has fueled an R&D boom in Japan's battery business. Mobile phones, notebook computers, digital cameras. If it recharges, chances are the battery, says Sanyo. The Japanese electronics giant wants to use 44 years of that experience to cut into the auto industry. And the head of Sanyo's lucrative battery business says the queries are flooding in.
Between now and 2010, we will spend about 125 billion yen on our consumer business. We will probably need to invest close to that amount for the next 5 years.
Sanyo has been supplying batteries to Ford and Honda for many years. Volkswagen looks set to use Sanyo for future models. Sanyo has also learned the hard way. A massive battery recall in 2006 cost it millions of dollars. Do you think we need industry-wide standardization in terms of safety for car batteries?
Things will speed up and it will not take long. There are those who are using manganese or nickel. They do so to raise energy density, but that is extremely dangerous. Nickel can catch fire, it is extremely dangerous.
As demand surges, production consistency will be the true test.
There is a candy in Japan called Kintaro Ame, where no matter how you slice it, the same pattern will appear. A battery has to be like that.
The other hurdle, cost. Nickel, lithium, manganese, and other raw material prices have shot up. Although Honma thinks Japanese battery makers reign supreme, they're not unrivaled.
Korea is looking beyond the current boundaries of the battery industry and are trying to grow the industry. A big part of that is related to cars. They have Hyundai, which is being supported as part of a national policy. For Japanese companies that are going in alone, this is a big threat.
For now, though, Honma is riding high. His company and Panasonic dominate more than 80% of the battery market for hybrid cars. By 2015, it's likely to be a $2.3 billion market. After the break, we'll take a look at the world's first pure electric sports car, the Tesla Roadster, hatched by a small startup company in Northern California. That's coming up next on Wheels of Change. In California, driving is part of the lifestyle. The state's 34 million residents own some 25 million cars. But their love affair with the automobile comes at a price. 5 of the United States' most polluted cities are here in California. The main culprits, motor vehicles. Authorities say that has got to change. Pretty soon, all the cars in the state of California will have stickers slapped on the back of their number plate. On a scale of 1 to 10, the higher the score, the more environmentally friendly your car is. Just like smoking, if the stickers work, it might make driving an SUV a social taboo. It's a bit of a gimmick, and for some motorists, a status symbol. But officials from the California Air Resources Board say the move is necessary, part of a zero-emission vehicle program that has been in place since 1990. Officials say they drew inspiration from the world's other big maker of automobiles, Japan.
They came back from a trip to Japan and they said, you know, unless we do something that's a mandate, these companies are not going to keep up their investments in the research that's going to be needed for the technology breakthroughs.
The goal now is to bring pollution down to 1990 levels over the next 12 years. That means actively encouraging vehicle manufacturers to think green through incentive schemes, research grants, and tax rebates. But triggering a change in mindset can be a difficult task.
In the past, the companies have also cried wolf many times, or have in a sense, I think, evaded the requirements of regulations as a way of continuing to make investments in things like heavy gas-guzzling vehicles, where their profit margins were higher in the short term, but in the long term, it was a dead end. Part of the art, I suppose, of being a regulatory agency is deciding how far you push to get people where you want them to go, but not to the point where they jump off a cliff and do something that's going to be counterproductive.
Temperatures in LA have risen 5 degrees in the last decade, and air quality continues to deteriorate. There's a silver lining. The state's determination to tackle these problems has made California a leader in setting emission standards, not only in the U.S., but around the world. Wildfires rage through California again this summer, and the city of Los Angeles is constantly fighting other climate threats like heat waves and smog. California has the right to set more demanding emissions rules than the rest of the country, and it now has the world's toughest greenhouse gas standards. That makes it a hotbed for test driving new technology. Like this all-electric $109,000 sports car, the brainchild of multimillionaire Elon Musk. Musk first hit it big with the internet when he invented PayPal. Now he's steering Tesla onto a different path.
With this car, you can just floor it and accelerate very quickly, and you're like a ghost. You know, just really, they're super fun.
"4 seconds flat, 100 kilometers.
we really should have had electric cars sooner than now. It could have happened sooner. Given that we're not reading about large quantities of low-cost oil being found every day, but we are reading about the rapid industrialization of China and India, which is 40% of the world's population. And simple economics says that price is where supply meets demand. I mean, I think you'd have to be brain dead to think that oil is not going to be extremely expensive in the future.
Ultimately, do you see Tesla as a niche player?
No, I mean, I see Tesla as hopefully the next great American car company.
He spent $55 million of his own money to get there. But Tesla has hit an unexpected roadblock. Turmoil in the financial markets has made fundraising and an IPO virtually impossible. That's forced Tesla to delay plans for a cheaper sedan. He's even had to lay off workers. But he's unlikely to be unnerved.
Silicon Valley is located in California, and it's the biggest concentration of engineering talent and entrepreneurial drive in the world. And so if you want to get the people that can do something very innovative and are willing to take risks and that kind of thing, it's really, Silicon Valley is by far the best.
Japanese automakers would beg to differ. From plug-ins to fuel cells, the choice in next-generation technology has never been greater. In the big, bold world of environmentally friendly cars, Tesla is but one player, and a relatively small one, too.
Making 200,000 cars is a little bit different from making 9 million cars.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
It's a burgeoning niche, and an exciting one. And with everyone, from the giants to the upstarts, jostling hard for space, it's clear the race has only just begun.
Straight ahead, ever heard of a biodegradable car? We travel next to Hiroshima to learn more about Mazda's green initiatives. That's coming up next on Wheels of Change. Welcome back to Wheels of Change. Motorists are a demanding lot. We want our cars to drive well and look good. We're willing to go green if it doesn't burn a hole in our pockets. And the new technology has to fit in with our lifestyles. Which is why when it comes to eco-cars, most automakers are focusing on engineering and styling. But here in Hiroshima, Mazda is going one step further, zooming in on the little things that might make a difference. Mazda's Primacy Hydrogen RE Hybrid runs on both gasoline and hydrogen. They power the rotary engine that's won fans across the world. And whereas other automakers are researching diverse new technologies, Mazda is planning to focus on what it already has.
For our part, our short-term strategy is optimization of the current technologies. We believe that we can make significant improvements and apply that to a greater proportion of the market and therefore have a much bigger impact on CO2 emissions. And then longer term, a combination of hydrogen rotary and hydrogen rotary hybrid. So we've got our foot in many camps.
What sets Mazda apart from the crowd, it isn't only interested in greener car engines, it wants the car itself to be environmentally friendly. Which is why much of the premises interior is made out of a bioplastic derived from corn. Yes, you heard it, corn. The initiative is the result of a collaboration between Mazda and this company. Nishikawa Rubber. Its nondescript factory in Hiroshima is a world away from the high-tech wizardry more commonly associated with leading car makers. But Nishikawa plays an important role in the industry. It supplies weather strips to all of Japan's automakers to seal window frames. And it's made a significant breakthrough: the development of an additive crucial to Mazda's quest for the ultimate bioplastic. The man behind the discovery, Dr. Toru Yano, a 17-year veteran at Nishikawa. His patented pet project, this. An additive needed to make bioplastics durable and heat-resistant enough for use in automobiles. Lactic acid is combined with a secret ingredient and boiled in the vat at 200 degrees. 22 hours of chemical reaction later, the substance is squeezed out. What emerges is a milky, waxy material.
This little piece of plastic may not look like much, but it's the key one-of-a-kind ingredient that Mazda needs to turn corn into car interiors.
Takahiro Tochioka is a scientist at Mazda's headquarters. He's the man who first realized the potential for Yano's discovery. The additive and other polymers are combined, heated, and squeezed out into a stretchy string, almost like licorice. And like candy, the goo hardens almost immediately once in contact with water. They're then cut up into tiny pellets. Unlike conventional petroleum-based plastics that rely on fossil fuels and produce more carbon dioxide, Mazda's material is 80% biodegradable. And Mazda says 3 times stronger and 25% more heat resistant than those produced by other manufacturers. The pellets are stirred again and injected into a molding device to produce all the bits and pieces needed to dress up a car. The lid of a glove compartment, the gearbox. They are then fitted into Mazda's Premacy Hydrogen RE. The finished automobile is eco-friendly, both outside and inside. That's pretty impressive. But Tochioka says that's still not good enough.
Finding a base material that does not compete with crops we need for food is a priority. Only then will these kinds of materials be appreciated. We want to achieve that goal by 2013.
Because when it comes to sustainable motoring, even the smallest, most mundane details could make a big difference. In the last hour, we've looked at how Toyota won over green consumers with the Prius, shown you the future in the shape of Honda's Clarity, and tested out the latest pure electric vehicles. So here's the big question: where's the industry headed?
Now, if you look at the car industry as a whole, it's really about 4 things. The first 3 are product, product, and product. And the last one is about cost structure. Now, in terms of hybrid technology, there isn't a lot of homogeneity out there in the market right now. Hybrid is kind of an umbrella term for a sort of system of technologies, but there isn't a dominant sort of hybrid platform that's in use out there. So I think once that becomes a little bit more streamlined and you see a little bit of technological convergence, that will filter down into the cost structure and really help to bring down prices of hybrid cars and make them more widespread. So that is probably going to happen sort of as a matter of course, and that will really see hybrids hit the mainstream in a much bigger way than they have now.
So it looks like hybrids are here to stay, for a little bit longer at least. But what if we all lived in an ideal world?
If you could have your pick, what would be your vision of the dream car?
The dream car. The dream car, the dream eco car, is probably a car that is recyclable.
What if old body put in the thinner solar cell, like a painted solar cell? If we could make a developer, you know.
So embed the solar in the panel.
Right. Instead of a paint like this, paint the solar painted
It's got to be a car that's built to last and to get us where we need to go with as little fuel as possible.
Of course, it has to be reliable, dependable, affordable, comfortable, and also help with the environment.
I am looking forward to a nuclear-powered car that is faster than anything you can buy today and never has to be filled up with fuel. It runs and runs for millions of years.
We are probably years away from some of those dreams, and some of them are pretty outlandish. For now, the research continues, the innovation continues. Technologies will come and go. Some ideas may fail, some ideas may take hold before we find the ideal solution. For automakers, the risks are tremendous. But as Honda's founder Soichiro Honda once said, we only have one future, and it will be made of our dreams, if only we have the courage to challenge convention. I'm Kaori Enjoji. You've been watching Wheels of Change.